Happy Friday, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Mean Streets presented by So Rare, live here on our FTN Network YouTube page. Also coming your way on Game Plus Network. Chris Meaney hanging out with you. A lot, as always, to get to as we wrap up the week here. And last night, the NFL released their schedule. So we're going to talk a lot about the NFL schedule today. We're going to take a look at the week 1 NFL betting lines. That's right. It's never too early to lay a little bit of a sprinkle down. Middle of May, we're not even going to get football until September. But indeed, we are going to go over the week 1 NFL lines. We are. I already see some people talking Survivor with me. It's a little bit early to get into that. But we got week 1 NFL lines here. Our guy, Mike Randle, is going to stop by. We're going to dive into a lot of the NFL schedule. Not only are we going to look at week 1 NFL lines, we're going to look at strength of schedule. You know, a lot of things will change. Of course, it's based on last year's winning percentage for the opponents that they're playing this season. But we are going to take a look at the strength of schedule, easiest, hardest from a fantasy standpoint. We're going to take a look at the best ball and the fantasy football playoff schedule from week 15 to week 17. We're going to yes, it is an early look, but we're going to do these things and help you guys, find an edge, whether you're drafting in best ball or fantasy football. Just something to keep in the back of your mind, as we've talked about a lot about the strategy in best ball this week over here at FTN Network. And of course, we have our live best ball guide, rankings, projections, articles, strategy pieces, value stacks to attack, quarterbacks to target, rookies to target, when to take them, all those sort of things included in the best ball guide. A lot of goodness and still more to come as well. And with the schedule coming out today, we will have added pieces, of course, as I mentioned, the fantasy football / best ball playoffs. We're going to take a look at the bye weeks. We have an article from our guy, Daniel Kelly, already live on FTNfantasy.com. We're going to take a look at some of the primetime matchups, as well as some of the revenge matchups, the Christmas Day schedule. We have a game on Black Friday. We're going to take a look at the Thanksgiving Day schedule. There's a few games in London and in Germany. Everything. There's a few intriguing matchups for sure. I think some teams got like a short end of the stick. I do believe the Giants have 7 of their first 10 games, I believe. Don't quote me. I will find it after the break, are on the road. I don't believe that's the first time it's happened since the merger. And of course, why is that happening? Well, the Giants share a stadium with the Jets. And did you guys hear that Aaron Rodgers plays for the New York Jets? Yeah, we'll talk about the Jets schedule, and it's super tough to start. And we will dive into all of that stuff. I see Randall already in the house. A big Dallas Stars win last night. We love it. We love to see it on the show. How about our guy, Rupe Hintz, now leads the playoffs in points. Maybe one of the most underrated players in the game today. We did have the Stars 2 units for them to win in 60 and on the puck line, and it's really good for our future for Dallas, now up 3-2 on the Seattle Kraken and the Carolina Hurricanes. I mean, they just continue to doubt this team, but they just continue to, make me look pretty silly. This squad down 3 of their top 4 or 5 goal scorers and have no problem here in the playoffs. You could talk about the easy matchups. I see people talking about it on Twitter. They got by another just team that's not good. Got by a young, inexperienced Devil squad. It's still the playoffs, guys. The Devils are a pretty solid squad. They didn't get the goaltending, but they're still a really good team, and Carolina took them out in 5 games tonight. Leafs and Panthers, game 5 at the old Air Canada Center, now Scotiabank Place, Toronto with their backs up against the wall. And then a really just what's been a fun and entertaining series between the Oilers and the Vegas Golden Knights happening in Las Vegas tonight. That series all knotted up at 2 games apiece. Alex Pietrangelo got a game last night for that dirty slash, and we talked about how most likely it was only going to be a game, but let's be honest, it should have been 3. But it was just absolutely vicious. No need of it. And then Darnell Nurse is going to get a game as well, despite Mark Stone saying after game 4 that Clegg said he was ready to go and he wanted to fight Darnell Nurse and it was going to happen. But Nurse gets the penalty for instigating under 5 minutes left in the game. That's an automatic suspension. It can be reviewed, but I guess they reviewed it, but the suspension stayed true. So we're going to talk about those 2 games. We got some picks and some props in the NHL. A decent day, back-to-back days, kind of just breaking even. It's better than losing money. So we'll try to finish the week here pretty strong with some picks that hopefully will be successful. We're going to take a look at the 2 NBA games as well. Suns are done. Suns are toast. It's tough, right? I mean, they lose Chris Paul. Chris Paul is another playoff disappointment for him. You really feel for the guy. whether you're a Chris Paul fan or not, I mean, this guy has just had numerous injuries on the biggest stages, and he's just going to probably go down without a ship. But the Suns are done. Kevin Durant and Booker didn't even take any interviews, any questions. He just stormed out of there last night. So the Nuggets, which, by the way, I think Randall and I talked about this also, Weisenberg DFS, the value on the board with Denver. It's like the best team in the league all year long. And these guys, I believe, were 12-1. 10-1. Like, they were not even considered with the 76ers of the world and the Celtics and the Bucks, who were bouncing the first round. It's been some chaos as well. The Lakers can close things out with a home matchup tonight against the Golden State Warriors. So lots to get to. As I mentioned, we're even going to scan the MLB diamond for some props as well. Lots of picks, lots of football talk. Randall's hanging out, so we're going to take a quick break here right now. We'll be back in a couple. We are going to dive heavy into the NFL schedule as well. Keep it locked, a lot, as I said, to get to here on Mean Streets, presented by So Rare. Hang tight.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. There he is, Randall Rand on the Twitter machine of FTN Fantasy, FTN Bets, FTN Daily, all the FTN lately. And little birdie just told me before we started the block, you had some success with the Suns and the Nuggets, correct? We'll unmute you. We'll get you unmuted. Oh, Randall, get you unmuted. Come on, Friday. Get off the bats. Let's go. Bottom of the screen. There we go.
You know,
there he is, folks. There
Chris,
he is.
I'm going to blame that on the fact that there it is, because we met up last night with the FTN crew for the first time in New York, and that's what I'm blaming it on, my friend. How you doing?
I'm doing good. Yeah. No, hot start here today. I love it. I know I was going to take some shots at you for that because I knew you were out with the crew last night. So maybe a couple bats from you last night, definitely martinis, but yeah, welcome in. What'd you think of last night? NBA, surprised that the Nuggets, I'm sure you're not, because we talked about the value again on the betting board with Denver. Nobody was talking about this team, myself included. I thought the Suns were going to go on a big run, but no Ayton last night, even though he hadn't done a whole lot. No Chris Paul. Is this too tough for that team to overcome?
Yeah, it was. And once you realize that they couldn't stop Jokic, who was not great in the first series, but he really started dominating. Once that happened, you heard Ayton was out. There was talk last night. We were going back and forth about the effectiveness of Jock Landale. St. Mary's own. I love Jock Landale in college. Beat Gonzaga. Great job. But really could not handle Jokic. It got to the point, Chris, where they just realized we can't stop him. And I think they tried to take away the other options but it just didn't happen. Jamal Murray got going last night. Kentavious Caldwell Pope hit a 3, and it was just all went downhill from there. We talked about it on Mean Streets, plus 1,000 for them to win the NBA title. Seems a little nuts, doesn't it?
Would you give them the benefit of the doubt against the Lakers or the Warriors?
Yeah, much to the chagrin of our own CEO, Kevin Adams, I just don't see the Lakers having enough to make it through. They are older. LeBron, legendary. Of course, Quan knows he's 1A to Jordan's 1, but we can get into that on a different show. But Anthony Davis, of course, the injuries, they should not have been laughing at him on social media. That is wrong. But certainly he's shown a propensity to have trouble. I just think that the Lakers are not going to win the title. I don't, so I would be fading them in the next round as well. I think Denver looks great right now. They were very underrated by all of us, and all of a sudden we forgot just how great Jokic is and how much he can do on the court.
Lakers close it out tonight?
Yeah, I think they do. Yes, I think they do, because I think they figured out, Chris, that the key to beating Golden State is you don't do help and recover. Golden State has lived off the fact that they will dribble penetrate against you and you will collapse and they will kick out. What the Lakers have been doing is they're not collapsing. They're saying to Curry and Thompson and all these guys, get to the basket. Let's see you finish. And they're having trouble with that. They score from time to time, but they refuse to give up the threes, which is why you've seen Klay Thompson, Curry's, even Wiggins' three-point numbers have gone down, and they've struggled to make that second adjustment. Finally, it's not help and recover. It's stay home and be selfish. And they're doing that. And unless the Warriors can find a way to continue to finish at the rim where Anthony Davis is, where LeBron James is trailing, all of those guys, I don't see it happening. I think they're going to finish it off. I really do. I think Golden State's run here is starting to go away. All dynasties must come to an end, Chris. I think it's happening.
I know. And it's been pretty impressive. It's a really impressive run. And if they were able to come back 3-1, I mean, geez, it would just be another cherry on top of what has been a fantastic few years for Steve Kerr and company. But I've always been on the Lakers in this series. I like them. I think that they will give Denver a really good go. It's all about Anthony Davis, though, isn't it? Like LeBron, you can say whatever you want about LeBron. He's 17-0, up 3-1. Like, he's had so much success in the playoffs, but he is a lot older now. He does need a healthy Anthony Davis, especially. There's nobody that's going to be able to slow down Joker, but it would be very beneficial if they had like a 90 or an 85% AD at health. And on the other side of the bracket, I mean, you got a big in Joel Embiid as well. So we could really see a fantastic finals. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself. On the right side of that bracket, we brought it up in the East. What do you make? Jason Tatum with 0. He had 0 for 10 at halftime, but he showed up when it mattered, and the Celtics did tie up that series. But who do you like to get through here on this right side of the bracket?
You know what I loved is all these people out there on social media and family as well who like to talk about when the Heat beat the Bucks that the Knicks' path got easier. It doesn't work that way, guys. Momentum is key. We saw the Packers as a 6 seed, Chris, a few years ago make a run. It's about momentum. Miami is finishing off the Knicks. They're moving forward. I would want no part of playing the Heat whatsoever. Jimmy Buckets has been phenomenal. And on the other side last night, boy, Tatum couldn't play any worse. And we were watching that game, debating between who has the dog in him. Is it Jaylen Brown or is it Jason Tatum? Tatum up big again at the end. So Brown, Tatum, I think it's going to be tough to win a game 6. Sixers doing what they've done historically. Doc Rivers not great in these situations. Joel Embiid's the MVP. He's going to have to show up. But I think it's going to be Miami and Boston.
I really like Brown as a player, man. I think he should have the ball in his hands a little bit more. He's terrific defensively. I loved him in Cal. And then being named to the second team All-Star, there's like, he's going to get paid now, whether they go down that road, but they can offer him the max, like at over 200, right? For 5 years. But I wonder what way they'll go if they get bounced here by the 76ers. I do like this prop. I don't know if you have anything for tonight. I wasn't really going to talk NBA with you. I want to get into the football, but Jalen Brunson, we gave 25.5 for the last game. And he popped off for 38 points. He had over 25.5, midway through the third quarter. He's got 38, 32 in the last 2 games. In game 2, he had 30 points as well. He didn't shoot the ball really all that well in game 3. In Miami, it was 7 for 20 from the floor, and he had 20 points. But I know this is a high number, but this is a guy that I think is completely underrated. The Mavs could have had for like under $60 million if they made it work for him, midway through last season. And I just feel like, I don't know if the Knicks are going to be able to win in Miami, but I think he's going to show up.
Yeah, their teams have shown you, Chris, that they're going to allow you to get to the mid-range. We have our FTN model projects Brunson for 28.5, so I am fine with this. Also, my corollary, which is a little narrative street, big players in big games. I find that, across the NFL, MLB, whatever you want, they know that they have to show up in these games. The Knicks have absolutely no chance whatsoever if Jalen Brunson doesn't show up, because RJ Barrett's too up and down, hurt his ankle in the last game as well. So I like it. Our model likes it. I like it. You're on in here. Jalen Brunson's going to do whatever it takes. He's really impressed me. I did not know if he was an alpha, but he's certainly being an alpha in the playoffs for the Knicks.
I think so, yeah. And I saw something from a Philly reporter. It was more of an Eagles guy. I forget the name now, but talking about how there was no stars at all on the Knicks squad, just like a bunch of role players. And I think that's a mistake. I do believe that Jalen Brunson, I don't know if he's considered a star elite, but man, he's better than a role player. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, Chris, you know what happens is people get caught up, and this happened when I was growing up, where Patrick Ewing was criticized with the Knicks for not being Jordan. What happens is, even with Brown and Tatum, there's criticism. Can they win the big one? Guys, they've made the finals. And what is the other option? Do you have an option if you don't retain Tatum and Brown to bring in? And Jalen Brunson, Kenny, do they have the right mix? They have a pretty darn good team. So the question is, you just build around the foundation. You don't necessarily have to make big moves. But if you're making a change here, who else are you bringing in? Don't make a change just for change's sake.
Yeah, good call. And they're going to have to find a way to win in Miami. There's no question about that, because they're 0-2 in this series, which is it's really tough to go into Miami and win. Defensively, they just play so sound, and they're well coached. Let's get into the NFL. Let's talk some NFL here. That's what we're really here for. That's what the people are here for. They're waiting around. Let's start here. I got a bunch of stuff for you. Like, I'm excited. It's like Christmas morning. George was putting together a bunch of stuff for us. We got week 1 schedule. We got easiest and hardest schedule. Going to take a look from week 15 to 17 in terms of playoffs and best ball and your fantasy football leagues. We got that mapped out as well. And I'm going to highlight some revenge games and fun games as well. But let's just start here with week 1, right? Why not? It's week 1. NFL season. You see some of the lines. I'm going to list off some of it and read it off here, Mike, for the iTunes and Spotify listeners. We've known for a couple days that it is going to be the Chiefs and the Lions opening up in Kansas City to kick us off. And the Lions, the new look Lions, and this is rare for Detroit fans. So why don't we just start there, right? It's exciting for Detroit. This is a team that is favored to win the division. The last time they won a division, 1993. NFL, it was the NFC Central. The Lions have never won the NFC North at all. They did win 8 of their last 10 games to close out the season, and it was the first time they had a season over 500 since 2017. A lot of expectations for this Lions team, starting in Kansas City at Arrowhead, Mike.
It's so crazy. I heard the vice president of the NFL talk about the rationale yesterday on Sirius, why they picked the Lions. Chris, is exactly what we would think as fans. They went through a bunch of options. They said, you know what? The Lions have not been there for a while. They know that when you have Patrick Mahomes, you're going to watch the game regardless. So they wanted to put on an up-and-coming team that looked good last year. And they said it's stuck in their mind how well they played against Green Bay the last week of the regular season against Aaron Rodgers. So it's nice to hear that all those things that we talk about factor in with them as well. I think it's a great matchup. Let's hit the over, by the way, on that game. But it should be real exciting. I think Amon-Ra St. Brown may have 15 catches in that game, Chris. I'm not sure.
He may, no Jameson Williams to start.
Right.
And this is an offense, of course. Defensively, they weren't great, but I thought they had a great draft, especially day 2 when you and I were together on this network talking about the NFL draft. I thought they had a day 2. And even if you don't agree with some of their picks on day 1, they got good players for sure. They did have a top 10 offense last year. So 49ers and Steelers, and you see some of the lines here. Niners are favored by 3, by the way. Kansas City 6.5 favorites. And things are going to change a little bit, of course. It's only May, but this is still fun to look at. Vikings open up at home, 7-point favorites against the Bucks. No Tom Brady, of course. The Cardinals are going to be without Kyler Murray for at least the first few weeks of this season. They're in Washington to take on the Commanders, 4.5-point dogs. The Falcons, 2.5-point favorites here against the Panthers, and we'll see Bryce Young's first game, even though he's practicing with the twos. Don't buy into it. Right. Jacksonville 3.5-point favorites in Indy against the Colts. Will Anthony Richardson be the starting quarterback for Indianapolis? The Bengals 2.5-point favorites against their division rivals, the Cleveland Browns in Cleveland. The Titans in New Orleans to take on the Saints with Derek Carr's first game at home, 3.5-point favorites. The Ravens 8-point favorites against the Texans. CJ Stroud, tough start for him in Baltimore against the Ravens. We have Seattle at 5-point favorites against the Rams. The Eagles are in New England in Foxborough, and they're going to have a bit of a special there for Tom Brady. Of course, we saw that this was eventually going to come, I think, and it's a good thing. The Patriots need to do a lot of thanking to Tom Brady for sure. The Eagles are 3.5-point favorites. The Dolphins in Los Angeles take on the Chargers, 2.5-point favorites for Justin Herbert and company. The Raiders on the road to take on Denver. Jimmy G's first game with his old offensive coordinator, now head coach Josh McDaniels in Denver. Of course, new head coach Sean Payton there, 3.5-point favorites for the Bucs. Packers in Chicago, 2-point favorites for the Bears. And then the Cowboys in the Giants. I had to look this up because I'm like, again, these guys always seem to play each other. It's the 7th time in the past 12 years Dallas and New York meeting in the opener. The Giants have won once. Dallas has won 11 of the last 12 meetings between these two teams. And then we see the Bills, 1.5-point favorites. Of course, Aaron Rodgers and the Jets have a tough schedule to start. They have a few games at home, but this one here right off the get-go should be pretty good. Rodgers and Josh Allen. What do you make of some of the other matchups here?
Oh, yeah, Quan, let's get that up again. I have so much to say. Yeah. We could spend an hour on this. First off, why are we not taking Mike Tomlin with 3 points at home? Chris, I'll do the numbers when we start doing our preview. You know Mike Tomlin as an underdog. You know Mike Tomlin as a home underdog. I think the Steelers are undervalued. I think this is definitely a division that they can win. Pickett, more weapons, etc. Healthy defense. Love that one right away, especially against whoever the 49ers quarterback is going to be. Other games that look interesting to me, I'm fascinated with Falcons and Panthers. Everyone's on the Falcons. Bijan Robinson, we can argue for years. He's the RB2 right now. Really? Really the RB2 overall in best ball. But people think the Falcons have a very easy schedule. Opponent using the Vegas win totals. I think they're second behind the Saints right now in terms of easiest schedule. But going against a Panthers team that's very much an unknown, shock that's only 2.5 if we love Atlanta so much. So that one's really interesting to me. And Chargers, Dolphins, I mean, slot machine city. So many exciting matchups here in the first round. Cowboys, Giants, I think you maybe saw my Twitter handle. There's a Cowboys fan I have in my family who just complains constantly about Dallas and how they just get the short end of the stick. He's like, open with a road opener. Then they have 2 road Sunday night games in the first 5 weeks. Is that fair for the Cowboys? I mean, I don't know how you analyze it that closely to start, but certainly interesting. And last one here, Chris, we talked about the Jets. Their first few weeks, just crazy with they have that. Then they go to Dallas. They have New England. They have the Chiefs. So a lot of interesting games here. But right off the bat, the one that hit me, Steelers +3 against the Niners.
Yeah, speaking of the Jets, this is exactly how they start. So the week 1 against Buffalo, which is the Monday night football game. Yeah. Then week 2 against your Cowboys in Dallas. Then week 3 at home against New England. Divisional matchup, not going to be super easy for Rodgers and company. Week 4 at home again. Kansas City comes into town. Yep. Week 5, they got to go into Denver. Week 6, they're at home, but they play the Eagles. And I was asking people what the record would be, after 7 weeks, with week 7 being the bye. And a majority of the people were replying to me with a record of like 2-4 or 1-5 or maybe 3-3. So it does open up a little bit for them, but it's not going to be easy. The AFC is completely loaded with strong teams and great quarterbacks as well. The Giants, I thought this was interesting, at home to Dallas, then on the road in Arizona, on the road in San Fran, home to Seattle, then on the road Miami, on the road Buffalo. That's like 4 of the first 6 games on the road, and a majority of the Jets games are at home. So I don't know. The NFL just loves themselves some Aaron Rodgers. That's really what it is.
They do, but if you're a Giant fan, Giant fans are notorious for complaining the schedule is so hard. Guys, it rotates the divisions, okay? You have to play everybody. But they then will have, Chris, if you flip that around, a series of home games during the cold months, during the critical run here for them to make a run at the playoffs. So I get it. It's frustrating, but if you had to have that schedule, rather have it early because you're going to be home in the comforts of your own home on your own field late in the year when the games matter more.
And there hasn't been a repeat division winner in the NFC East since 2004. So if you believe in that trend, it could be the Cowboys or the Giants season.
Chris, I'm laughing because I put something out here on FTN about the top 3 quarterbacks per ADP over the last decade, which of course right now is Allen, Mahomes in some sort of order, and Jalen Hurts. And so to tie into what you just said, my question is, one of those 3 always bombs. For the last 10 years, one of them is going to be terrible. Which one is it going to be? Could it be Jalen Hurts? I don't know. I'm leaning Josh Allen because I think Mahomes is so safe. But the statistics show the top 3 in ADP are not going to finish that way, which means one of those 3 teams could have a disappointing season.
Yeah, it's amazing in best ball. 3 of those guys, that tier, they're basically the same ADP, like Hurts, Mahomes, and Allen, like 18.4, 18.5, 18.7 or something, like things we've been talking about in the show. I'm going to bring this up one more time. Oh, that's a spoiler right there. Quan, what do we got? Where's the week 1 again? Can we check that up one more time and see? Yep. There we go. People are, it's exciting, right? Football's exciting. Somebody's already talking to me about the Commanders as their survivor pick. I'm like, oh, I'd just be so sick to my stomach if I was out week 1 survivor because I picked Washington, but that's going to be a trendy one. Baltimore is going to be a trendy one there as 8-point favorites at home. I'm going to like the Eagles at 3.5-point favorites on the road, even though it's big Tom Brady night and special for him. And then I think that I'm going to be in on the Jags as well, even though that's a bit of a division. That's a division rival game. You know, it sometimes gets a little wonky between those 2 teams, but I think I do like that 3.5. Nothing else really jumps out at you in terms of spreads before we move on from week 1?
One more, Chris. Why the heck are the Saints 3.5-point favorites over the Titans? Last I checked, they still do have Ryan Tannehill. They still do have Derrick Henry, and they had the NFL's #1 rushing defense, and they're really well coached. We're just laying 3.5 points with the Saints because they got Derek Carr. Their defensive line is not nearly as strong. We don't know the situation with Alvin Kamara. They're going to have to attack Tennessee through the air. Chris Olave, let's take it easy. His second year, 3.5. I will be all over the Titans here. They're acting as if Malik Willis is starting. We don't know what it's going to be. This is a solid Tennessee team that is well coached against a Saints team that I think we're a little overrated at this point with Derek Carr. Just my opinion. I'll take the 3.5.
And first game, right? It's first game, new coach, new system. Alvin Kamara is most likely not going to be with the team either. Right. And yeah, I kind of feel the year. I think it could be a long season for Tennessee. I don't think Tannehill's going to close it out, but he should be the guy there week 1. Let's bring up NFL win totals, and then we'll break and get out of here. Quan, if you can find that, because there is a comment. You mentioned the Steelers, and I believe maybe everything here is pretty much on point. I think the Ravens may have changed at 8.5. I didn't know how much you love the Steelers and like hearing that. And Kenny Pickett's kind of interesting to me from a fantasy standpoint, but as we see Hess 11 DHI in the house, welcome in. Steelers season over 8.5 lock. Should be 6.5 all 17 games. Give Tomlin healthy Najee, Watt, more experience, Pickett to win at least 9 games. You agree with that?
Hey, Chris, listen, I am with Hess, and you heard I went back and forth with our own Tyler Lochner. Did we just forget about Najee Harris? All of a sudden, Najee Harris doesn't matter anymore. The guy gets the ball in every goal line situation, is going to get 1,000 yards, had a ton of receptions here, conservative quarterback, Kenny Pickett, he's going to be open here. Why all of a sudden are we forgetting about Najee Harris? I agree completely with Hess. Defense, healthy, strength in the secondary, got Joey Porter Jr. in day 2. Here we go. Steelers, absolutely. I like coaches, Chris. I believe great head coaches are hard to find. That's exactly what Mike Tomlin is. Gets his team ready. Man, I'm going to go back as soon as we're off to go back to that week 1 line against the Niners. I mean, who is starting a quarterback for the Niners? But yeah, I like the Steelers over there as well. And here's one for you. Look at the Chargers at 9.5. Last year, they had all those injuries back and forth. I know the Chargers have injuries. I get it. But Kellen Moore has now joined the Chargers offense. He was criticizing Dallas for being too pass happy. Not going to be the problem with Justin Herbert. They added Quentin Johnston. Should start the year healthy. If they get any sort of decent injury regression and they stay healthy, good offensive line, I think Chargers could be over as well.
Interesting. It sounds like Brock Purdy will be there, but who knows? Question marks, right? It sounds like Purdy will be there opening day training camp, but Again, if it's not, Trey Lance only played a handful of games like the last 5 years. My favorite on that as we break, my favorite win total as we break. My bad, Quan. I'm messing you up here on a Friday. We're all on bats. Seahawks 8.5. I actually think they can win the division. I actually really do believe that they can win the division. They took a massive leap forward last year. I think their defense is underrated. I thought they had a really good draft. I think they got the best corner in the draft. They added the best wide receiver in the draft in Jackson Smith and Jigba. Geno Smith led the NFL in completion percentage last year. They got a good 1-2 punch, I believe, in Charbonnet and Ken Walker. I like the Seattle team, and I think, last year was just the start of a quick rebuild. How they had a 5.5 win total last year. They traded Russell Wilson. They ended up getting a top 10 pick because they traded Russell Wilson away. And it wasn't their pick, which is crazy to think about. So I like the direction that they're going. And Pete Carroll's a good coach, whether you like him or not. He's going to have those guys playing, and they're going to be competitive all year long.
Chris, brilliant call. Seattle last year. I mean, I think Pete Carroll should have been coach of the year because we had them at what? They were down by the Cardinals this year, 4.5, 5.5, whatever the win total was. They are going for it. Geno Smith, they added players, strong wide receiving core. The defense is tough. They play well at home. Rams, Cardinals in the division, forget it. Cardinals could be like 2 wins this year. They could just pack it in and not even bring Kyler Murray back halfway through the year.
Agree.
I like it. I'm with you on Seattle. They could definitely challenge the Niners, 100%.
Yeah, and a cheap stack to attack in best ball as well. We'll be back in a couple. Mike, hang tight. We'll dive more into the schedule here on Mean Streets.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Nolan's in the house. And yes, we are definitely forgetting because we're choosing to forget that Sam Darnold is on the 49ers. I saw a report out of San Fran the other day, and it was like one of the reporters said that it's like the best spiral he has ever seen a 49er quarterback throw. And I was like, that's a joke. That has to be a joke. No, they have a long list of great quarterbacks that they've had. Like, is that reporter 12? I don't know.
Nolan, we're not forgetting anything. If Sam Darnold starts that game at Pittsburgh, we are shoving all our chips to the middle. I'm just trying to keep it even reasonable, Nolan. We're not forgetting about that.
I do like the call of Canada. That's Matt Canada is an issue for the Steelers, and they decided to bring him back. But we'll see if things do change. I do think that they're on the rise and heading in the right direction for sure. Let's continue to dive into the schedule here. These are some other games that I just highlighted that I thought were pretty cool. So we'll see like the rookie quarterbacks potentially in week 2, with Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud. And then we have, a little bit, some revenge games here and things like that. But we also have Bijan Robinson here for Atlanta in this matchup. And when we move forward, week 4, this is like a revenge kind of week. There's some fun revenge stuff here, like, for example, Calvin Ridley, Jacksonville against his former team. We have Odell Beckham Jr. in Cleveland against his former squad. We have Adam Thielen against his former squad there. The Kansas City and the Jets game, that is, I believe, Sunday Night Football, Chiefs and Jets, and it's the first ever meeting of NFL and Super Bowl MVPs. I saw that on NFL Network. I did not know that. Then we have week 5 here, Green Bay and Las Vegas. And I think the significance with some of this schedule, I mean, I got week 7 here, Miami and Philly, just as like a fun little primetime game between Tua and Jalen Hurts, former teammates. I got the Turkey Day here, Green Bay, Detroit, Washington, Dallas, San Fran, and Seattle. We're going to have our first ever Black Friday game the very next day. I believe like it's mid-afternoon, Miami and the Jets. Week 13, San Fran, Philly. That was a fun playoff game last year. Always fun to see like Cincy and KC week 17, Buffalo and KC week 14. I think week 15, Dallas and Buffalo is interesting as well. You got 3 Christmas Day games here with the Raiders and the Chiefs, the Giants and the Eagles, Baltimore into San Fran. You got some international games there, 3 in London, 2 in Germany. There's a lot to kind of unpack here. I've kind of highlighted some fun stuff here, rookies versus rookies in week 9. You see Indy and Carolina, again, Richardson and Stroud in there, Darren Waller back to Las Vegas, Tyreek Hill back to Kansas City. There's a lot to unpack here, of course. Anything really highlight?
Yeah, what jumps out to me, I can't believe I'm saying this, is any Jaguar game. I love the Jaguars this year. I think they are comfortable playing heading over there to England. I think they're fine there. They're going to play Atlanta, the team that everybody's on. They're going to play Buffalo. I am down on Buffalo this year. So I love the Jaguars matchups. I love their schedule. It's 9th easiest per Vegas forecasted win totals. So the Jaguars jump out. I love the Thanksgiving games. Miami Jets, Chris, is always odd. Weird stuff happens. The fake spike with Marino. There's always something crazy going on there, but there are some great ones. Just some great matchups. Tyreek Hill with Kansas City. You talked about that. So great stuff across the board here. Really excited. International games look really good. There was some rumblings I heard that New England didn't want to play in Germany, but really interesting stuff. And Jets-Giants week 8 going to be great.
Yeah, absolutely. It should be a good one. I forgot why I highlighted week 3. It's Gibbs versus Bijan, the 2 rookie backs going toe-to-toe with each other as well. And then you see week 11 is the Super Bowl rematch, and it's just the second time. I couldn't believe that. The second time we're getting a Super Bowl rematch the following year. Philly and Kansas City, and both teams coming off a bye in week 10 as well. So they'll be fresh and ready to go. And we know how great Andy Reid is when it comes to buys. All right. So that's a quick little look there. We have a lot to kind of talk about as we get going. This is the strength of schedule, as you kind of alluded to earlier. Hardest, according to, it's based on last year's, opponents' winning percentage. So the Eagles, the hardest, followed by the Dolphins, Giants, Patriots, and Cowboys. So the NFC East, of course, this year playing the AFC East, and that's a big reason why. And the easiest, you touched on the Falcons. Look at the teams on the right. The Falcons, the Saints, the Texans, and the Colts. Those teams in their divisions, they're the weakest divisions in football, right? The NFC South and the AFC South.
Yeah, for sure. And listen, Saints easy schedule. I'm just not buying it. The Falcons could be good. The Falcons for fantasy, Chris, is a real pivot point on whether you think they're going to be good or not, because Kyle Pitts could finally get unleashed. Desmond Ridder likes to run. Drake London really quiet. Everybody loved Chris Olave. How about Drake London's season last year? So Falcons absolutely could be a sleeper and a team that can do very, very well. Eagles, of course, going to have a hard schedule. Giants now really have to sort of test their schedule. Last year, remember, they built a lot of wins early in the year with a very easy schedule, yet they struggled within the NFC East as well. So I'm curious on them. And could it be time, Chris, that the Patriots, Bill Belichick, could it be going the wrong way? Can he get it together one more time? Mac Jones going down to Alabama, complaining about him last year. Really curious on the Patriots, because it's hard for me to believe that their defense may not be as good. But if you look back last year, Chris, at who the Patriots played, the teams they beat, those quarterbacks, substandard. They struggled last year in New England against every top quarterback they faced. This could be the beginning of the end. Could it possibly be that with Belichick? I know he got interviewed. He was upset. Said, what can you say to us to give fans hope? And how about the last 25 years? We get it, Bill. But, we got right now, without a doubt, I think Patriots' worst quarterback in the AFC East, right?
Yeah, Yeah, and we may see even Billy Zappi again this year. Who knows? And we won't be hearing about the Eagles' easy schedule if they go on a run, because it's like we heard last year with the easy schedule. But this year, there's a heck of a stretch where it's like Dallas by Kansas City, Buffalo, San Fran, Dallas into Seattle. So they're certainly going to be tested this year. And new offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator in Philly as well. We got to take one more break if you don't mind hanging on. Again, we're going to take a look at the best ball playoff schedule and the fantasy football playoff schedule. George put a lot of work into this next graphic, and I can't wait to talk about it here with you next on Mean Streets. Hang tight.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Mean Streets here live on Game Plus Network with Mike Randle at Randle Rants. We have the best ball guide, which is live over at ftnfantasy.com. Link inside the description of this video. If you're unfamiliar with Underdog Fantasy, promo code FTN, they'll match your first deposit 100% up to $100. You can also do some prop picks over there, more or less. And we have a free tracker over at ftndaily.com. This is a lot. When I gave it to George, he was like, what? But he did a great job with it.
Wow.
And again, it is a lot to unpack. We're going to have an article where you can take a little bit of a closer look. You can pause the screen when you're watching on TV or maybe here on YouTube to dive deep into your favorite team. So this is week 15 to week 17. That's fantasy football playoff time. That's best ball playoff time. Things are going to change. There's no question things are going to change from the start of the season up until week 15. Injuries are going to happen. Surprise teams are going to be much better against the run that you would expect and things like that. But I didn't dive too deep into all of this. You know, I feel like Washington has a tough schedule at the Jets, at against San Fran, you know, in week 16 and week 17. I was thinking about Derrick Henry. I always think about Derrick Henry and, you know, if he's going to fall off. But you know how Derrick Henry has just absolutely dominated the Texans over the course of his career. And he just so happens to have 2 matchups against Houston in the fantasy football playoff schedule. And he has just run all over the mic, like over 200 yards, bunch of times against the Texans over the past couple of years. I know it's a lot, but any takeaways here? And I know you're going to be doing some playoff best ball stuff.
Yeah, I just put out an article to games to highlight. This graphic is incredible. I'm going to steal this as soon as we get off. Great job by George. Right off the bat, here's a couple teams for you. First off, let's talk about the Chargers, a Charger team that's playing the Raiders, Buffalo, and then at Denver. I like Denver this year to bounce back with Sean Payton. Don't forget, they have a lot of offensive weapons here. So here's Sean Payton, Kellen Moore going to the Chargers. This is a Charger team that can put up points 100%. Other team I'm looking at, how about Detroit, who last year at home, 33 points for Detroit. They are home versus Denver. Then they're at Minnesota. That could be a bonanza. And then at Dallas as well. So those are some games that just jumped off the bat to me. Week 15 to 17, of course, when you're doing your best ball teams, you want to focus on them. The ones I like, Week 15, I mentioned. Chargers at Raiders. I think that's going to be an absolute home run. Look, four of their last 6 regular season games, Chris, 47 or more points between those two. Week 15, Denver, Detroit. Week 16, Dallas, Miami. And then you want to go all the way through here to the end. Cincinnati, Kansas City, of course, a focus as well. So just some great games here. A lot of high scoring. Cincinnati at Kansas City has been absolute mayhem in terms of scoring. Chase, Higgins, and now you have on the other side, Patrick Mahomes, MVP, without Tyreek Hill. Can he do it again? A lot of great opportunities. If you want to target playoffs for best ball here, this is where you should go.
Yeah, I really like Green Bay's schedule this year, too. I know there's no Aaron Rodgers there and Jordan Love. There's a little bit of uncertainty there. I like Christian Watson. I think Jalen Reed is a sneaky little good wide receiver and 2 running backs. Like, it's going to be a pretty decent 1-2 punch for them as well. And you see Tampa, Carolina, and Minnesota. Like, those are not the toughest schedules. 8 of the first 9 games for the Packers are against non-playoff teams from a year ago. So I wouldn't be shocked if they were sneaky good in the fantasy world as well. So you go ahead and you steal that graphic. We'll be talking about it a lot here. We'll give some love to George and a little bit of love to our guy, Daniel Kelly, as well. We have the Buy Mageddon.
Yes,
that came out live last night, right away after the draft or the schedule was released, rather. He was trying to figure out which week was the craziest. I think last year, week 14, there were several teams on bye right before the playoffs. And that was like, oh my goodness, that's tough pill to swallow. Week 7, you see Cincy, Dallas, the Jets, Carolina, Houston, and Tennessee. But it's early on in the season. I think you can handle it. Week 13 has got to be by Mageddon here. Buffalo, Chicago, Baltimore, the Giants, the Vikings, the Raiders, they're all on bye. Think about it. Diggs gone, Fields gone, Allen gone, Lamar Jackson not there for you, Justin Jefferson, Devontae Adams not there for you, Saquon Barkley. There's a lot there that won't be available to you week 13.
Yeah, how about week 14, Chris? Can you put 2 teams that are less fantasy appealing right now? And listen, Murray could come back. That could be a different story. I'm not saying that. But Arizona, Washington, week 14. But week 13, you talked about it, by Mageddon. You better not be playing for something serious there. If you have Josh Allen, Justin Fields, you're going to have to prepare for that because those are some heavy hitters and some high-scoring teams. There's Devontae Adams, Giants with Saquon. A lot of interesting teams with that late week 13 bye.
Love it. Appreciate you, Mike. It was fun to break it all down. It's a lot to unpack, but it's exciting that it's here.
Absolutely, man. Always a pleasure to join you. This is great. Can't wait. We got Quan behind the curtain. We're ready to roll.
Yeah, we are ready to roll. Okay, check out Mike on Twitter at @RandleRant. And again, check out the work over at ftnfantasy.com, ftnbets.com, FTN Daily. And like I said, the best ball guide, it's live. It's for you right now to check out. Link inside the description of this video. We're going to turn the page, talk a little hockey. We've got some picks in the NHL and around the diamond to wrap up Mean Streets. Have a good weekend, Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
Got it.
Welcome back in. Let's focus our attention to the ice in the NHL. We have two games this evening. As you see, the Leafs and the Panthers. I think the Leafs are going to win this game. I don't think that they're going to come back and win this series. I really don't. I think Florida's played great. Leafs probably played their best game in quite some time, certainly in the playoffs. They were tight checking. They didn't give up a lot of high danger chances. It was pretty much an even game, but their stars showed up. I think that they extend the series, but I do believe Florida's going to continue to play really good hockey and bounce Toronto. Maybe in Sunrise, but I like Nylander here. Nylander leads the Leafs in this series in terms of shot attempts at all strength, and at 5-5, he's cleared this number, 3.5 shots at -118 over at Bet Rivers. It's our free bet of the day. He's cleared it in 3 of the 4 games in this series, so I am taking William Nylander. Jonathan Marchessault is now 3.5, as the other game on the night is in Vegas between the Golden Knights and the Oilers. Marchessault has had a fantastic series, really, in terms of shot attempts. He leads the Golden Knights in this series. He's got 23 shots on goal in the 4 games, 6, 6, 7, and 4. That's why we've seen the bump from 2.5 to 3.5 plus 112. I'm taking it. Shea Theodore, no Alex Pietrangelo in this game. Shea Theodore has been very quiet, but he had 4 shots in the last game in this series, and he took over the top spot on the power play. And like I said, no Pietrangelo is huge. I expect him to log probably 23, 24 minutes in this game. I am taking over 2.5 at plus 120. A little bit of a long shot, but I think the process is true. Evan Bouchard, another guy, same sort of thing applies. No Darnell Nurse in this game, maybe more minutes for Bouchard. He already has the top spot on that first power play. Maybe he hangs out on the second unit as well. He's had a fantastic run here in the playoffs. He's got a point in every single game but one. His assist prop is -125, the over on 2.5 shots, which he had 3 in his last game and at least 2 in every game in this series, is at plus 120. I got a parlay for the folks here. Sam Bennett over 2.5 shots with Zach Hyman over 2.5 shots. Hyman is cleared in 3 straight games. Bennett is cleared in 3 of the 4 in this series as well. Like I said, Leafs win. I would take Bobrovsky saves. And I think the Edmonton Oilers go into Vegas and win a hockey game as well. But look for Jonathan Marchessault and Jack Eichel to continue to play really good hockey in this series. And I think we will see a really nice show from Draisaitl and McDavid tonight. Oh, baby. No, Pietrangelo is huge. Like, it really is. He's a strong defensive defenseman. Maybe a little bit of a bonehead with that slash, but he's a strong defensive defenseman. We're going to wrap up the show with some MLB picks here next on Mean Streets. Back in a couple.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Play So Rare MLB, a free revolutionary fantasy game and marketplace that transforms fans into general managers. Build your team with ownable digital player cards. Collect, buy, sell, and trade to optimize your lineup. Compete against So Rare managers from around the world. Climb leaderboards and advance to elite competitions. Based on your player's performance on the field, win rewards like game tickets, merch, and much more. Draft your set of free cards now at sorare.com/MLB.
The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare. Build your teams just like an owner. Buy, sell, or trade officially licensed digital player cards. Build your 5-player weekly lineup, and you could win rewards like tickets, autographed jerseys, and more. The future of fantasy sports is here with So Rare, taking Dynasty to the next level.
Welcome back in. Got an MLB prop here for you. And we are, of course, going to give a little bit of love to the Marlins' #1 pitching prospect who's going to make his MLB debut tonight, and the #3 pitching prospect in baseball. You're going to want to get your hands on Eury Perez in fantasy if it's not too late. This guy has a start tonight against Cincinnati, a 23.4% strikeout rate. It's the 6th highest mark in baseball. They got a lot of swing and miss up and down their lineup, and Perez has a lot of swing and miss in his game. 42 punchouts in 31 AA innings this season. How about last year across 75 AA innings, 106 strikeouts? Man, he is electric. I'm surprised, actually, we're only getting 4.5 here at -105. There may be a little bit of nerves, potentially. There could be, but I am seeing 4.5 across most books over at our prop shop. This one here, -105, is from Caesars. I think the Braves take care of the Jays in Toronto against Bassett, and I think St. Louis and Boston, not breaking any news. It's nice to see the Canadian James Paxton on the bump for the Red Sox. I root for him. I hope he does well. But I think we're going to see a lot of runs between the Cardinals and the Red Sox, despite St. Louis playing so poorly. I think that they are going to have a little bit of success against Paxton. So I would go the over there as well, and the over between Cleveland and the Halos with Tyler Anderson on the bump and Logan Gilbert, 2 lefties, 2 southpaws going toe-to-toe against each other in Cleveland. Good luck around the diamond, on the ice, on the hard court. Have a great weekend. No Mean Streets on Monday. No live Mean Streets on Monday. I will be in Edmonton. Game 6, Golden Knights. I'm going to be there. Snap some pics for you guys. We'll be back on Tuesday. Have a good one. Cheers.